Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
We can have clean burning coal plants, but they don't want that. Obama said he was going to bankrupt anybody that would build a coal plant, and then they went to move on that, and Hillary Clinton doubled down on it and said, we're going to put you out of business.
Stephen in New Hampshire, go ahead, sir.
Hello, how's it going?
Doing great. You are live.
All right, well, first of all, I actually have a question that's directed at Mr. Knight. I have a lot of respect for the way he portrays himself, so I have just a simple question for him.
Sure, go ahead.
Basically, what I'm wondering is, what do you think about Trump's environmental stance? Now, I voted for Trump because I agree with numerous facets of his campaign, for example, the Second Amendment and his stance on abortion, as well as numerous other things that he promoted. But what do you think about all these pipelines, him hiring Rex Tillerson? Now, I know it's going to create jobs, but you look at China with all their factories, some people can't even breathe over there.
Well, my concern with Rex Tillerson is that he supports the whole idea that we got global warming that's man-made, and he did that with Exxon. So on the other hand, we've got Pruitt, who he's put in charge of the EPA. And here's my concern about it. If you're concerned about the environment, we need to at least get the EPA as a first step. We need to get them back to their original mission of working on clean air and clean water and have them do that within the context of following the law. What their mission has been in the name of climate change is to shut down entire industries. We can have clean burning coal plants, but they don't want that. Obama said he was going to bankrupt anybody that would build a coal plant, and then they went to move on that, and Hillary Clinton doubled down on it and said, we're going to put you out of business. As far as the pipelines are concerned, my issue with that, with an environmental standpoint, the people who are protesting that want to keep the oil in the ground. That's their position. They don't want any oil used. Now, I don't agree with that. As I just said, I think that we can do it cleanly, safely, and so I don't want to keep the oil in the ground. Now, the question then becomes, how are you going to safely transport that oil? Are you going to do it by rail car? Are you going to do it by truck? You're going to do it by ship? The safest way to transport that is by pipeline. Let me give you an example. The Exxon Valdez, which is not the worst spill that we've ever had, but it's the one that most people know about. That was 1,500 times the record spill of the worst pipeline accident that we've ever had. So that means that you could have the worst pipeline accident we've had every day for 5 years before you get to one Exxon Valdez. It is the safest way to transport the pipeline products. My concern with the Keystone pipeline has been eminent domain, and that is a property rights issue. So apart from the environmental issue, I have concerns with the way that the Keystone pipeline was done, where they handed to TransCanada, who's running the Keystone pipeline, they gave them the right of eminent domain where they could go in and take farms of people who have been there for a century or more, let them go in and condemn that property to run the pipeline through. So I have an issue with that. What they were talking about with the Dakota pipeline, that was over area that was not, they were not fighting for private property rights. As a matter of fact, the people who were protesting it, they had two agendas. Number one, they wanted to keep the oil products, the petroleum products in the ground. Secondly, they wanted to have the government control everything and take away private property rights. So it's a very different scenario going on between those two pipelines. So that's my personal take on it. You may agree with that. You may disagree with it.
I very much agree, and you helped clarify a lot of questions that I had right there. So I thank you a lot for that.
Thank you.
All right, Stephen, your phone line's getting a little creaky, but
I want to say something about that too. I know we're wrapping this up.
I'll let you do that, but David and I just spoke. Probably, I had never really thought of it in a couple of those terms that you brought out: the eminent domain, and then the way the Keystone people, they want the oil in the ground.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The Dakota Access Pipeline. Yeah, they don't want any fossil fuels. And I'm sorry, we don't have the capability yet. There's many reasons why, I'm sure, that we don't have cheap, clean energy. And right now we have fossil fuels. And if you want to get to a society that's going to have cheap, clean energy, you have to innovate. And the only way to innovate is to have cheap power. You don't see Venezuela coming up with lots of new inventions right now. They can barely put bread on the table. And it's because they don't have power. That's the bottom line. The reason the United States has so many inventions coming out of it is because we have cheap power. And it's because a guy can go home at night and instead of worrying about, well, can I run my refrigerator? Can I run my TV? He's out there tinkering in the garage trying to invent something new. That's where you see innovation. You don't see innovation coming out of giant corporations.
It's not only there, but it's not only the general health of the economy and innovation, but it's also, of course, your lifestyle and your life expectancy. If you want a low life expectancy, you'll see a high correlation with the people who do not have cheap, available energy. And so that is really the issue. And the other part of it is when we look at them picking the winners and the losers, look at what the Obama administration did in terms of subsidizing companies like Solyndra and others. There's a lot of crony capitalism that is at the root of all this, completely shutting down one industry without regard to their how clean it is or whatever, just saying we're going to shut down coal, but we're going to reward solar power over here on the other hand.
And we're going to buy dirty power from Mexico.
Exactly. That's what we don't want to see.
Dirty coal power plants in Mexico, we're going to buy their electricity and keep them in business and not let clean coal, which does exist. There's plenty of people that have proven it and talked about it. It works if you build it right and you run it right. Go ahead, Leanne. You want to follow
Well, I just wanted to just kind of touch on China. Obviously, you can see it's atrocious there. They're actually bottling air and selling it to tourists because it's so disgusting there. People are
like Spaceballs.
Yeah, I mean, terrible diseases there, brain damage from the amount of pollution that's there. A lot of that is the fact that people really need to stop buying all of this cheap plastic crap that they just throw in the landfills. Their factories are just pumping out. I did a report over Christmas time, billions of dollars worth of Christmas lights that Americans are buying. Billions in Christmas lights. So this is just cheap plastic crap that is pumping out all of these toxic fumes into the air. And I know the caller was afraid of America. I don't think anyone here in the U.S. would like to see our air, water, anything be polluted in that way. And it is all about people just buying things of value. And if we're going to make things here in America, make sure that they're things that are going to last, not things that we're going to have to replace in just a few years because it's a bunch of crap.
And what did Trump say? Buy American, hire American. When was the last time a president ever said that?
Yeah. You know, Leanne, what you said in terms of China, that's another example. When we're talking about clean air, clean water, what we saw with the Obama administration was picking winners and losers within industries. But of course, the climate change people are picking winners and losers with countries. China, they're telling us it's a global climate crisis, and yet they allow China to build the dirtiest factories you can imagine, and they don't have a problem with that. But here, no matter how clean the coal plant is, they're going to shut it down. So that should give you an idea that they're not playing straight with you. They're not showing you all their cards. They're not honest about what their true agenda is. That's what people need to understand.
Yeah, great call.
This is one of the biggest secrets out there. The missing link of why our ancestors, whether you were in Africa or ancient Albion, which is England today, why our ancestors were so much stronger. I mean, there are huge archaeological reports, all sorts of anthropology studies, you can look them up for yourself, that show that humans, just an average farmer of 10,000 years ago in England, was stronger than Olympic athletes today. In the final equation, everyone knows our modern society has lost its vitality. The sperm counts are down like 90%. People are falling apart. They're totally depressed. They're unhappy. What is going on? Every ancient culture was obsessed with what I'm about to reveal to you. Today we call it bone broth, and for thousands of years our ancestors enjoyed its benefits before it became lost to our modern diets of processed junk. That's why I'm so excited to announce the product that is undoubtedly the jewel in the crown of Infowars Life products. Caveman. We lost our vitality because we just ignored the ancient traditions. Everyone knew that you used all the parts of the animal. You used the skin to cover yourself for shelter. You used the meat for sustenance, the fat for cooking, but you used the bones for strength. We are now introducing Caveman by InfoWarsLive.com, the ultimate in true paleo nutrition with bone broth, turmeric root, chaga mushroom, and 7 total primal superfoods in a single great tasting formula. The bone is so amazing. From the outside structure full of minerals and key cofactors to the marrow that produces the blood for the body. This is the engine of the life essence. I've made a lot of important points here, but this is the one you need to research for yourself because it's so key. High-quality bone broth helps support healthy muscles and connective tissue, while the active compounds in turmeric do battle on the cellular level and help fight free radicals. And collagen is essential to aid healthy tendons, ligaments, and muscle tissue. This is an absolute win-win. You get an amazing product produced right here in America. You support Infowars and all we're doing to promote freedom and the restoration of our republic and promotion of freedom worldwide. The journey towards better health and giving our bodies these amazing compounds that God created starts at InfoWarsLife.com. 3 years in the making, incredible research, and the very best ingredients. I'm Alex Jones, and I may not be a caveman, but compared to these trendies out there in the street, I'm as close as it gets. Join me at InfoWarsLife.com and get your caveman formula today.